Hey guys, welcome back to the Kaiyo cast. It is episode 19. We have SadlyItsBradley here. Welcome. How is your day going today?
Hi. It's going good. I just ate a salad. I'm here with you to talk about things I have no idea. It's good. It's good.
Heck yeah, heck yeah. Salads are a vibe. Okay, wait. Okay, no. Actually though, what should
Oh,
be in just a salad? Like what toppings are like just
oh
necessary
no.
on a salad? Or-
Oh no. Okay. All right. I'm very simple. I like my salad like my pizzas. Very plain.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, I put ranch on it. I put tomato, but I
Like
don't
you
like
like
egg in it.
crunchy
Egg is
lettuce?
disgusting. Egg is
Crunchy
so
lettuce is
gross.
essential, okay?
Yeah. Crunchy lettuce, yeah, like or iceberg. Oh, I love like when you cut in half an iceberg, you just put it in a bowl and then put ranch on top and
Yeah.
tomato. It's so good.
Oh
Yeah,
no, it's just the best. It's like so simple, but it's so good.
it is so good.
I swear to God, I'm gonna flame in the comments because bait the most basic axe salad. They're be like, you don't put like like almond nuts and shit in it. I'm like,
No, I don't want nuts in my salad, bro. That's gross. That's gross. Ew. Ew, what's wrong with you? Nasty.
what are you thinking of people that put like
Keep your
cranberries?
nuts out of my salad. Cranberries is also fruit. No, I don't want fruit and my vegetables together. I like them separate. I do love fruit though. Fruit's yummy. What's your favorite fruit? What's your favorite fruit?
Honestly, watermelon is watermelon a fruit? Watermelon.
Oh, you are actually so based. I agree.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. Watermelon is the best. It's so hard to find it, dude. How do you like? Okay, when you go to the store, like, how do you pick out your watermelon? Like, I
Okay,
never,
don't
I
wait. Are
never
you
can
supposed
get
to
it
like
right.
tap it though? Like, isn't that like the thing? Or like,
Yeah, but I don't know. I
like
don't
I
know
don't know
how
what
you do it
sound though.
right.
It's like a specific sound, right? I think it's a sound, right? Like people say it's like, oh, you gotta
Oh.
like knock on the watermelon, and there's like that specific sound that you like know it's like ripe or something, like really good.
All I know is whenever I buy a watermelon, I bring it home, I cut it open, and that thing's white as the freaking sun. I just get depressed. I don't even want to do anything the rest of the day.
How is the watermelon white? It's supposed to be
I
red.
don't know. Sometimes it's white. I don't know. It makes me sad, dude. I don't know. This
No,
is
it's the
Floridian
depressed
watermelon sometimes, I
watermelon.
guess. It's messed up.
Do you have any like other favorite fruits?
I like Cara oranges. Have you ever had that
Oh,
kind of
those are
orange?
good. Yeah.
Those are so good. I don't know why. They're like very different. I don't know why, but they're very different than most oranges.
They're not blood
They're kind of like
oranges, right?
halfway between. Yeah, they're like halfway to blood orange. I think blood orange is a little bit too much for me, but like Cara, perfect.
I
Get
think
that
it's
in
like a
my mouth,
hybrid
100%.
or something, right? I think so. Must be, right?
It might be. All I know,
Yeah.
it only comes out like once a season, and like I get so excited whenever I see it. This story.
I get depressed like every time like watermelon season's done because then we can't get good watermelon.
Yeah. You can just tell too. Actually, that's one way you can tell when to get watermelon. You know, like sometimes they sell it pre-cut for you. You go over there, it's the refrigerated section. You're like, ew, that does not look good. Odds
Yeah.
are it's probably not gonna be good, right? Non-cut. So, yeah, we're learning stuff. Cool.
We're learning how to pick out good fruit, okay?
Yeah, we fruity.
Never go to the grocery store and actually pick out like bad fruit. Like, because when you get home and you try to eat your fruit, it's just depressing trying to eat bad fruit. Do you think there's totally a difference between like, organic and like non-organic fruit, right?
Okay. No. I think people who say that are paid by Big Fruit. Like, I don't know. I don't know it's a difference. I don't know it's a difference.
I
Like,
can't
I'll get
notice the
whatever's
difference
cheaper in
either.
that week. Actually, sometimes the organic fruit is worse. Like, it just seems worse. Like,
Or
way
like,
worse. Like, whether it's like dried out or something. Like, I
yeah.
don't know what frick's going on there.
Or you know that moment when you like just buy a product and there's like the organic version versus like just the regular
Yeah.
version, and it's like there's all those videos
Yeah.
with like expensive versus cheap stuff, but like the expensive stuff
Yeah.
sometimes just worse than the cheap stuff.
You know, like fruit roll-ups, like the candy thing.
Yeah,
They're like organic fruit roll-ups, and I look at that and I'm like,
that's a thing.
what's the point? Yeah, I saw that at the store recently. Organic fruit roll-ups. It's like, okay, I get it. You're trying to say that the fruit made in this is organic, but if you look at the ingredients, I guarantee there's no actual fruit in those.
I
It's
guarantee
like
there's no
organic
actual.
chemicals, I guess.
How do you get organic chemicals?
But yeah, like I'm obsessed with OLED, like OLED technology.
Yeah.
Like OLED, the O in OLED stands for organic, but you don't see people eating freaking OLED displays. So
I mean, like, Okay, is it
Yeah.
like just totally the debate like with organic and regular shit versus LCD versus OLED? Like it's the same debate.
It 100% is. Actually, no. Actually, that's not fair because OLED is genuinely actually better than LCD, whereas like organic fruit is not genuinely better than not organic fruit most of the time.
Yeah, no, I guess like because LCD would just be like typically worse. Like they're not comparable. Like
Yeah.
OLED is just better. Yeah.
Anyone who says otherwise is literally just coping all the time. I swear to God. I know you people out there, you LCD apologists. Get out. Get out. Get out.
The hard copers, they're like, nah, LCD's like great. Like, what are you talking about? Like, the blacks are
Yeah,
fine.
they're like, yeah, mini LEDs saving the day. Yet everyone's still like giving up LCD technology at the fabs and switching to OLED. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. Freaking unbelievable.
But
It's
when,
freaking
when,
liars.
when like
Unbelievable.
give it like 2 to 3 years, like give it like end of 2025, we're gonna get all the OLED headsets. Everyone coping with a Quest 3 and a Quest 2 be like, nah, LCD's still like the shit. I'm like, no, we just switched over to OLED.
Yeah, that literally is what's gonna happen. Like once micro OLED does become like affordable, everyone's gonna be like, I can't believe we use LCD. I mean, it's just like, the MacBooks, right? All the MacBooks are freaking mini LED, and they have the best mini LED on the planet. I still see freaking blooming on my MacBook. I don't want it, and they're switching to OLED soon. Like,
Yeah.
wake up, sheeple! Stop defending it. Okay, all right, cool, we're good.
Okay, what's your thoughts on the Hammerhead-esque Pimax headsets? Like, Hammerhead looking ass like.
Come on! You must, dude. Oh, low blow. Yeah, I don't like Pimax.
Okay, but like, Pimax
They're
is
just
like. Yeah.
they don't like me either. To be fair, they really don't like me. Because I've reviewed their products in the past, and I don't want to wear giant things on my head anymore. I don't know, and their software's garbage. Like, holy frick, their software. Like, you turn it on. Like sometimes it works as a VR headset, and then the next time you turn on their software, it's like just a literal toaster, and that's it. Like you just don't know. You just don't know every time
It's
you
just
use
like an actual toaster. Like it just doesn't work. The HMD's just like sitting there, and it's like this is supposed to work, right?
I really don't know how they like actually exist though. Like I know there's like really hardcore Pimax fans, and like that's good that they like it, but like I really don't think they sell that many. I bet you if they didn't have support from certain investors in China, like I don't think they would. I don't think they could be an actual business at this point. They're very.
I mean, like,
it's very
yeah.
unsustainable.
I mean, like, yeah, because like I don't see them like selling a lot of them, and like people that like do buy them are like either hard coping or using them for racing sims.
Yeah, like I mean that's probably the only group of people I think might actually like Pimax are racing simulator people. Like that's the only use case I really think they kind of fit that niche for. Otherwise, because even racing sim people, they're like people say PCVR people put up with a lot of bullcrap, right? Like all the software stuff that we have to deal with every day. That's like put up to 11 if you like have like sim chairs and all that stuff that you gotta all have working at once and everything. So I think their tolerance for bullcrap is like way higher than people that just want to like go into VR chat even. So yeah.
Yeah. What is your kind of like view on the XR4? Like that just came out at CES.
Oh, the Varjo?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I tried it in November. I didn't try it at CES because I already tried it in November, like the day it was announced. It's actually a pretty good headset, like from what I tried. Now I heard that there's still a lot of software issues with it because it's like they kind of, I don't want to say they rushed the launch a bit for reasons unknown, but the hardware like was really well made. Like you can just tell like Varjo does. Okay, so I have an XR3 in here actually.
Okay.
Just kind of sitting there.
Uh-huh.
And the way that thing works, if people don't know, you have 2 displays per eye, which is wild, and it was a good idea leading up to this point because Varjo's big thing. Actually, interesting note. Originally, when Varjo came out and was announcing all their plans for hardware, they wanted to make that little display in the middle that's like your Retina resolution display. They wanted to make that move around with eye tracking.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, but that's a really hard problem, and they could never get it working. So they just made it like stationary, right?
Yeah.
which, as I'm saying, up until this point, display technology has honestly not been good enough to reach like that high of a resolution that you need for what they're trying to push, which is their big thing is obviously like human eye resolution or like indiscernible pixels per degree and stuff. It was good back then. These days, display technology has caught up to the point where it's like you don't need to do that. And in fact, it's better not to do that because even though it was a cool gimmick and the gimmick worked for their use case, it was freaking awful to develop for, and like you could still see the seam. You couldn't see like where the display like matched with the display behind it, because obviously they would kind of stitch the software together to make it look like it's right. But you also had like some weird stuff, like let's say you have like all white screen.
Okay.
Like you have your desktop on light mode, which I like to do light mode. Shut up. OLED and LCD, which is the big. Okay, let me start with that. So the middle display in the Varjo XR3 is a micro OLED display, a little small one. It's like 1920 by 1920 in a very tiny FOV. So when you look directly there, you technically have human eye resolution in a very small FOV. They have another bigger display behind it to fill out the rest of your FOV. And that would be a 2880 by 2880 per eye mini LED display. Now, again, when you have an all-white display, LCD and micro OLED usually has very different white points. So you would just kind of see a difference in coloration based on the micro OLED and LCD, which was a little distracting in that use case scenario. Just a lot of little things like that. Which there's so many little things in VR that I think like people don't realize. Like VR hardware sucks. Like honestly, VR hardware still like really sucks. Like it does. Like you go to these events and you talk to engineers who make hardware, and like they list all these problems they're trying to solve that most people don't even know exist in VR. And I don't even want to get started about AR, but same thing. But yeah, anyway, going back to XR4. Sorry, I got a little tangent there. XR4 switched to one display, 3840 by 3840 per eye mini LED with a quantum dot layer, I believe. So it has a really good color gamut. In my opinion, it looks way better. They made the FOV bigger, which is another problem with Varjo headsets. Is the FOV always were pretty low, surprisingly. Like I want to say they're like 90 degrees or something, really, really low. Now the problem with the XR4, in my opinion, is it's still a very big headset. They use dual aspheric lenses, so those lenses are usually made of like glass or plastic, and they're usually very thick. So they're heavy. They add weight to the HMD, and also, unlike pancake lenses you see with like Quest Pro and Quest 3, they're not folding the optical path. So like everything, all the components are far away from your face, which makes the center of gravity not really that enjoyable. However, Varjo XR4 like actually has a really good like HMD design. Like they did like a cool mesh pad on the forehead, and they had like a counterweight in the back. And like even though when I put it on, I could still feel it was like kind of shaking and like heavy up here, it was still very well balanced. And I think
more comfortable.
I think it might be their best. Absolutely, yeah, it was way more comfortable, and I think it's just way better. Like I think it might be the okay. So I have an XR3 here. I've tried every Varjo headset. I've never really liked Varjo headsets that much. Like I know there's videos out there. It's like, oh, this is the greatest HMD in the world. But when I tried them, I was like, yeah, it's cool. It does its thing. But like XR4 is like the only headset. If I was really in that kind of market for a headset and I had $4,000, like I could see myself using it, like genuinely. That's the first time for any Varjo product. Even Varjo Aero, I didn't really care for Varjo Aero that much either, which is like their consumer product. Because all Varjo Aero is XR3 without the cameras and the little foveal display, but they use
like
basically the same optics
XR3,
as
yeah.
Yeah, so you still ran into a lot of the problems, like the low FOV, and another problem with Aspheric. Aspheric has really bad chromatic aberration and usually a lot of warping. I didn't really see a lot of that on XR4. Now that was again like problem when you go to an event. This is so annoying. When you go to events like that, it's like a magic show. Like it's always a magic show, right? Because they show you the perfect demo. They never let you go out of their demo to test other stuff. So like you can never get an idea of what problems they have. But still, yeah. XR4, Varjo did a good job. I heard they're still bleeding a lot of money. We'll see if they make it through the Apple era. But yeah, good headset.
Yeah, what's your opinion on the whole like new like spatial computing term going around now?
Oh, I actually like it. So I think I like it because I'm one of those YouTuber people too, right? And like I've been doing this for 8 years, and every time there's a new term, like we start with VR, right? VR,
Yeah.
everyone understood what VR was. Okay,
Yeah,
well
yeah.
then AR came out, or around the same time AR came out. People understood what AR was, right? Very simple.
We're not talking about the Google
Then
Glass.
no, that is not. I don't even know what to call that. Actually, that's like cursed.
That
But
wasn't even AR.
I guess that's kind of like smart glasses. Google Glass was it's weird. Google Glass is weird. It's actually kind of ahead of its time, but still weird the way they do things. But anyway, yeah. So there's VR, AR, two terms that made sense to people. AR is like reality. VR is you're in a virtual realm.
Yeah.
And then XR. The term XR started coming out, which is the term I come to like because I started to realize that this VR AR thing, it's kind of all encompassed because like you're seeing with like Quest 3 and Vision Pro, like the turn the dial or whatever to see like whether you want to be in a virtual space or augmented space but have the same content. That's been like the plan for a while. So XR made sense. It encompasses all those terms. There's a joke where the term XR came from like if you wrote VR and then you add like an A under the X, it like becomes XR sort of thing, and I always like that. But then MR came out, right? Mixed reality became a term. Started with Windows mixed reality, and then Meta started pushing the term mixed reality. So now you have two terms that are basically the same thing. You have AR and MR. So when you're trying to explain to people, consumers, what is the difference between all these terms?
AR, MR, like just
really
all the
hard.
terms. Yeah.
It really is hard. That's why I like, and by the way, spatial computing is not a new term. Apple's using it, but actually Magic Leap was kind of like the first company that really made it kind of like a term they use all the time back in like 2016. Magic Leap, if you don't know, they were a company that raised way too much money and released an AR product that no one cared about and ran out a lot of money after that. So spatial computing, I think it's a great term because it's kind of like XR. I think it's XR, but it's a term that the regular audiences that got all confused with AR, VR, or MR, XR can kind of like understand a little bit, in my opinion. So I like it, but it's still AR, VR, and all that stuff. Like people are very confused still. Like current VR users are very confused about the spatial computing term. They think it's like, oh, AR is dead, VR is dead, blah blah blah. They're trying to change all of it. It's all the same. It's all the same stuff. Like honestly, yeah. So it's a marketing term, and I think it's actually a good marketing term for what more. Because do you ever like open a ton of overlays and like VR chat while you're just like kind of chilling with people?
Yeah.
I mean,
just have, like,
you've probably been doing, I mean, VR chat people have been doing this for a long time. We just choose to do it all in VR because like, I don't know, maybe our rooms are messy and we hate looking at our friends in real life or something. That's me at least.
No, but like, okay,
So-
like total separate tangent. That's like, that is the thing why you keep your room clean, because you play too much VR. What? Come on.
I need to learn from you, I think, because I don't know, if I take one step, I'm going to step on a random index controller or something on the ground. So I don't know. I think it's a good term. I mean, it's kind of weird that like Apple's stopping people who work for them to say terms AR, VR, or anything like that. But that's Apple. Apple always does really cringy stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
I don't think they
know.
even want us to
I don't
call it
get
like a
mad-
VR headset.
No, they don't. They absolutely don't. They have literal terms where they should call. They want everyone who develop apps for it to call it a spatial computer, and they only want people calling it Vision Pro. They want people to call it Apple Vision Pro. So again, Apple sucks when it comes to that kind of stuff, but I'm not mad at them for using the spatial computing term like at all. I think it still makes more sense to people than all the other terms. Like not even MR. Then Meta came up with a new term. I don't know if you ever saw this, but they used the term meta reality.
Yeah, no,
You
I
ever
saw
heard
that. Yeah.
It's too confusing. It's too confusing. It's too on the nose. Then you have Metaverse. Dude, Metaverse, that confused everyone.
Okay, the term with
And,
Metaverse,
like,
no, that confused everyone. Like, that term confused everyone.
yeah, like you have AR, VR, XR, Metaverse, meta reality. Like it's just too much. Anyway.
Okay,
I
what do you
don't
think the
think we need to
Metaverse
read more about
is?
that.
What do you think the modern day Metaverse is? I think it's VR chat, to an extent.
Oh, it's absolutely VR chat.
Yeah, like-
no, it literally is VR chat right now. Like it's the only dude. It's literally VR. Or Resonite's also a good example, but I think Resonite, it's only available on PC, and that's pretty much it. Like desktop or VR. At least VR
Yeah.
chat is like actually does the whole metaverse cross-platform thing, and they're trying to build off of that. But yeah, I think VR chat's the closest by far we have to like an actual. Actually, if you really want a hot take, I don't even think VR chat is like necessarily a metaverse yet as much as it could. I think Steam VR overlays, the system, is more of a metaverse than VR chat is. It's just like a really abandoned feature that no one gives a crap about. Yeah, because I think a metaverse would encompass not just the VR stuff that we do, like the immersive app we do in VR chat, but like also it should encompass all the overlays and system that are persistent between VR and AR as well. To me, that's like what a metaverse really should be
encompasses, right? Yeah.
Because the idea is a metaverse is kind of like the internet. Like it's like all these interoperable things that can be connected to each other and are still persistent between each other. And VR chat's still not really there. But you know what is? Steam VR overlays. They're persistent across every app. You open a VR chat, you can open a game, you can open blah, 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 blah. That's my tangent about Steam. I can tangent about Steam VR overlays for way too much.
Okay. I wanted to go back to this a little bit. Pimax's names, like their advertising is just crazy. Okay, no. Did you see some of their advertising? No, their advertising is like 8K fucking best VR headset. Oh my god, you can distinguish reality from this shit. Like, guys, we have the 2K X fucking looking ass.
Yeah, I don't like. I mean. The sad part is, like, let's start with the AK thing, right? They use like two. So the AK, from when I remember, I don't spend too much time remembering Pimax stuff. I try to not. But anyway, going back to it, AK headset was like two very wide panels,
4K, right?
Kind of like smartphone panels,
right?
Yeah, it was two 4K wide, 4K resolution wide. But you know, most VR displays are usually like kind of square aspect ratio, whereas Pimax is like. Let's do like the full 16:9 ratio per eye to get that wide FOV. They're actually incredibly simple. Like they're really simple design. They just have a really wide displays and make optics that kind of stretch out to those wide displays, and that's how they created those headsets. You should never combine monocular resolutions, the wide monocular resolutions, to say your headset is that resolution number. You know who else does that? That was really disappointing to me. Sony. Sony did that for their PSVR 2. They call it a 4K headset when really it's like 2K per eye, because when you combine the image together, in your like your brain or whatever, it's not really 4K because it's terrible marketing. I hate that crap. I've hated that crap forever. Pimax is not the only company that's done it. A lot of companies have done it. It's really freaking annoying. And also, actually, if you really want to, if I want to throw some shit at Sony, Sony, their PSVR 1, and for their OLED panel, they used a RGB subpixel. So it was like one full actual subpixel. For PSVR 2, they went back to Pentile, like the original Vive and Rift, which the problem with Pentile is they share subpixels between all the pixels. So their effective resolution is technically lower than their number says, compared to like an LCD or a micro OLED that actually has like a red, green, and blue subpixel. So that 2K per eye is actually like effectively like 1800 per eye if you really want to compare it apples to apples sort of thing. Not 4K. Stop it. Just stop it. Yeah.
No, but that's the whole thing of like with OLED displays. What's your opinion about like the whole like Mera thing with like OLED?
I don't like OLED on glass. I should probably explain that. For VR, OLED on glass is a dead technology to me. OLED on silicon, which is also known as micro OLED. I'm wearing big screen Beyond right now. There's no Mera. There's no Mera in this OLED. That's like only an artifact that you get most.
It's only with like the micro OLEDs.
Yeah, micro OLED has. Okay, so the reason why, if you're curious, the main reason why OLED technology is basically a bunch of transistors laid onto a substrate. Now, the problem is these substrates are, if you use glass, like smartphones, TVs, and PSVR 2, that glass is, uses multi-materials to make it. So when they lay the transistors on there and they flow a current through that glass and the transistors, that glass is not pure. So the amount of brightness and stuff that happens when it runs through those transistors is different per pixel. Now, it's called polycrystalline materials. Now, when you use silicon backplanes like micro OLED, they're basically chips, the same things that we use for like making actual like computer chips and stuff. That's monocrystalline. So you'll have the same amount of evenness per pixel throughout the entire backplane, which is why you don't actually get that Mera as you do with PSVR 2 and like HTC Vive and Rift CV1 and stuff. So
That makes a lot of
perfect
sense.
technology. Yeah. Perfect technology if you don't care too much about extremely wide FOV for now, because that's kind of the problem we have with micro displays. They're small, right? Like Apple Vision Pro,
Yeah.
they have a 1.42 inch diagonal panel, which is actually quite large, like really large for a micro OLED panel. And the size of the panel is what gives you a lot of FOV. So like people are like, oh, hey, this headset has a much lower FOV than Quest 3. Well, Quest 3 is almost like double the size.
It's not like
panel
rocking
size
like
than
a 106 1 FOV, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it's around 106. People are complaining because, you know, like Apple Vision Pro and big screen and beyond are lower FOV, but it's like what people want. People want a perfect image, high resolution, high brightness, high clarity, all the things, and they also want
high
all the things
FPS.
you can
They
get.
want everything.
You can get a lot of those things. Also, they want it all in a small form factor, right?
Yeah.
You can get a lot of those things, but once you add big FOV, you pretty much remove the choice for a lot of those things to be combined with that. Like FOV is a really difficult problem to solve unless you want really big displays, which is like Pimax. They did the simple solution that actually worked for them and the people that want that. But to get that for like small form factor, you're not getting it anytime soon, unfortunately. It's just physics is a problem.
Speaking of FOV, the loss kind of thing, what's your thoughts on the Star VR 1?
Oh, frick. It was pretty, you know what? Star VR 1's pretty similar to Pimax technology in a way.
Is it?
Except it had better lenses and better software and stuff. Yeah, it was really expensive, right? It was like, what, thousands of dollars when it came out back in the day.
I
And it was
think
like
when it
mostly
finally
targeted for
released,
enterprise.
Yeah, when it finally released, I think it was supposed to be something that was supposed to be for everyone, but then stuff happened, and then like it was enterprise when it came out.
Yeah, that happens a lot in our industry. Because our industry is unfortunately not as profitable as you would actually think, which sucks. But a lot of companies have to switch to enterprise because if you don't, they're not going to make money from the consumer market, because the consumer market is still very small and it sucks and it's sad, but that's kind of the way things are. I don't have much to say about Star VR 1. It was a headset that was like taking a lot of stuff Pimax was doing.
Would you say
but like
lost
perfected
potential?
it because they were targeting.
Yeah, like in a way.
I guess like maybe if it released similar to Pimax prices, it would have like done well for that market. But I really don't think Pimax. This is speculation, but I don't think Pimax has ever made a profit from like actual sales. I think they've just been a company who has raised money through investors and like kind of kept sort of the local governments in China that have also like built their own factory from Pimax and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think Pimax is like genuinely a profitable company. I really don't think, and I don't expect Star VR would have been that much better, to be honest.
For the time, from what I've heard from Throw and just like his video on it, of like what it was and what it could have been, it was like, this was before like the index and everything. 2016, so it was like, well, no, and this is what was it? This was also before Pimax even shipped out like its first units. So yeah, this was like a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, like it maybe could have worked, but I still even think that product for release would have still been difficult to break out the niche. Like I still think a lot of people, if they got in their hands, a lot of people that would have still benefit from a headset like that are like kind of the same people that benefit from Pimax today. I don't know. Maybe it's a hot take, but I really don't. I think like it was backed by Acer at one point. I remember like Acer was kind of pushing that project a bit. A lot of those companies know how to make money, right? Like they make hardware very efficiently. They know like make a return on that hardware, and Acer's not exactly a high quality company either. Like they can push stuff out, they can make profit on their stuff, and I'm sure they looked at the bottom line and like thought, like knew their market more than us enthusiasts do, like looking at it and like wanting this stuff, and they just decided it just doesn't make sense for them. So
yeah, and it's like not gonna work out or something. I think the eventual thing was like they took over and then they backed out. Was the thing?
Yeah, there was. Okay, so it's very important. Okay, we're getting pretty deep in this. Okay, so one of the things I had to do in the past like 4 years of like becoming like a very hardware focused channel is I had to do a lot of research on the industry. And doing research on this industry, even the past 10 years, you will find yourself kind of depressed, like genuinely, because there's so many times where there was like this big boost of hype and investment and money flowing through our industry, and then a product release like the Rift or Vive, which both did okay. Now the problem is the companies that the company that pushed the Rift maybe said that this is the next era of computing, you'll be able to replace your early all that stuff back then, and also kind of, I would say, distorted the market a bit. Like, it made people think that like VR technology was at a place that it really wasn't back then. Like, it really was meant to be like kind of like this dev kit, like early dip your toes in, early adopter thing, kind of like the Apple Vision Pro is now,
Is for
8 years after the Rift.
Yeah.
Right? So
Would
like
you say
the
the Vision
baseline.
Pro is necessarily like the first Apple computers, but for Apple's VR thing?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I 100% see like stuff like that, like what Apple's doing with the Vision Pro and what Quest Pro was trying to do with their headset. Like, it really is like we're still like in 70s to 80s computing, but for VR. Like, we're totally in that era. We're nowhere we're nowhere near like the maturity that smartphones or PCs and laptops, even gaming handhelds are today. Because as I was kind of saying earlier, there is so many problems that VR hardware has today that people don't realize or think about. Like, a big one, if I'm gonna like give one example, is Virgin's accommodation conflict. Like, every headset we wear, it's a single focal point. So like, if you look close to your finger in VR, that thing looks freaking blurry. I can't freaking see what I'm looking at. It's very different in real life because your eyes like kind of verge together, and then like you have like this muscle that tries to accommodate for that, and that would remove a lot of eye strain, especially if you're like reading stuff. You want to pick up a pamphlet or a book and like read it up close like you would in real life. We don't have the technology in a product yet to solve for that problem, and there's like 100 more problems, little problems like that we don't really have. And it's, you know, it's like the first, it really is akin to like how PCs in the 70s didn't even have graphical user interfaces, which like to now we think like, how the heck did you use a computer just typing in dots? Like, that seems terrible. But we're really very similar in that state, but just in very different ways, because also VR, it's also really hard for XR because we have to compete with all the technologies that are mature, right? Like, I'm a big fan. Like, I'm one reason I want Vision Pro is because I am a big fan of like having a headset replace my eventually replacing my desktop, my monitors, all that.
Yeah,
that
like
stuff.
a full
But the
monitor replacement.
I have a 16. I have a 32:9 aspect ratio monitor. It's freaking huge because I'm big. I love having a ton of monitors and everything. To get a VR headset that replaces something like that is really hard for. Like, it's really, really hard because you know, you're not wearing something on your head when you're staring at monitors, and like, you can focus on different things, you can still talk to people, but I'm still a fan. I just know, I think people should remember this is still a long haul effort we're in. Like, XR is still something that we're going to like watch incrementally improve over the next 20 years, similar to how computers are. Like, this rush to mainstream, this idea that we're going to replace smartphones like within the next few years with this technology, or even laptops, is impossible for the average day consumer. But for enthusiasts like us that like understand like where technology is, we can enjoy the ride, and it's going to be like really powerful because we're going to be, you know, a bit older. We're gonna be there at the beginning as we watch this stuff grow from literally nothing to something that's like everyone uses. That should be the exciting part, instead of like let's hype everything up, like we're there today and all that stuff. So
I mean, like, that's the whole thing with like where VR is going, and especially the industry. But like, the whole tangent of like, I think people are gonna like comment on this, or just like in general, the whole like general meme joke of like, what do you think full dive is at? Like, that's like definitely like 40, 50 years off into the future. Like, there's no fucking way, right?
Man.
Yeah.
I don't see it being. I'm really doubtful. You know what I think? I actually think by the time, okay, so I am a big believer of brain-computer interfaces, but not the invasive kind. I actually think that the non-invasive brain-computer interfaces, like putting a bunch of different sensors that can calculate all the different biometrics and combine with like eye tracking, which eye tracking, if you have really good eye tracking, discern a ton of things about a person, including their emotional states. And actually, it's actually a privacy concern because, yeah, you can get a lot of information if you have good enough cameras pointing at your eyes. But anyway, I actually think the usability of when we have all these combination of sensors, non-invasive sensors, it's going to get to the point where we won't really care about full dive as much, is how I feel. Like, if you look at projects like Project Galea, which is a very just crazy bulky big HMD with a bunch of like, it looks like a nightmare, like honestly, and it kind of works like a nightmare too. I've demoed it. It's still very messy, but I think the industry knows that this is kind of a path we're gonna take over time, and I don't care about full dive because you'd be shocked about what the thing that trended on Twitter recently, right? They put that like little band on their head and they controlled their ears and stuff. Like that band is so simple technology, like the most simple technology you can get. And like again, if you combine all those things, you have the right software to like be able to feed all those things to do different things. I don't know, I think that's like something that's more realistic for our time than like the whole, oh, let's inject something into our cranium and try to figure that out. So yeah.
And like the whole, what is it? The whole thing with that, right, is the human brain is also like, I don't like this. Why are we doing this? So I don't think it's ever really gonna work. You know, it's like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I did do some research on it, and like the surprisingly, I remember someone talking about how the hardest thing, if we ever did that path, was people think, oh, let's implant a brain something into our brains or our nerves in our spine, and we can feel hot or cold. That's actually much harder from like a technological standpoint than like making our eyes see something by injecting stuff, which is still extraordinarily difficult to do. But like, if you want full dive, you want to feel hot or cold and all that stuff. Like that's kind of like the point, right? You want some people might want to feel pain and all that stuff, but again, it's so hard. Like I can't take, I unfortunately can't take full dive seriously because I don't see, even with Neuralink and Elon Musk and all that stuff.
Yeah.
If Neuralink was really that like modern and stable, like I'm pretty sure the CEO of the company would get it, but he
like
will
I'm
never,
pretty sure.
I think, get
yeah,
it.
no, he's not even gonna get it.
No, I don't think so. Because it's dangerous. Because that's another thing. A lot of the stuff that you put in people's minds related to invasive BCIs, those materials degrade over time, and a lot of those materials might harm your body more than like just not doing it that way, because you know we can't even have batteries not degrade over time. You think we won't put like something like that in our brain that will also like be over time like extended to the elements of our body and like start slowly dissolving and putting that through our bloodstream and all that stuff? It's very dangerous stuff. Like it really, I just don't see it.
Let's not do that. Let's like go just for the other
route. I really do think it's gonna like take off. Like I think HP Reverb G2 Omnicept, which was like the Reverb G2, but also had eye tracking. Yeah. A lot of people forget that it also had a little facial interface that would magnetically attach. It had contacts that would automatically communicate your heart rate based on like it would measure it on your, I believe it was your forehead. And they were able to combine the eye tracking with the heart rate sorry, I'm hungry still. Heart rate sensor to actually measure your cognitive load. And like, if you think about, hey, if you created, in a gaming realm, if you create experiences that can like measure your cognitive load, and like if a player's getting overwhelmed, if you can automatically dynamically change the difficulty of the scenario they're in, that kind of adds immersion and also makes game development, all this other stuff really valuable. And again, heart rate sensors are not difficult technology to put in these things. It's just the combination of all the sensors that's going to, I think, really take off, and people are going to appreciate the ideas of using our body and our brains to communicate with hardware rather than just like putting the hardware in our brains. So
yeah. So on the topic of immersion and all that, what's your thoughts on all the weird masochist people that want to feel pain with like all the suits and stuff? Like
that's awesome. That's a good question. So I've tried, I think the best, okay, there's actually a few products that I guess caught waves over time. So we're gonna start with OWO shirt. OWO shirt was like a one where you have to take, all of these you pretty much cannot wear clothes underneath because they use electrodes and they have to contact your skin, and mainly because they have to like kind of make you sweat where the contacts are, because water conducts electricity. They gotta put the voltage through that water that's sweating from your body to give you that sensation. So that's one step to like overcome. That's a hard ask already. Having people wear these things that cannot be cleaned and like all these other factors, put it on your body. It has to be in the right place at the right time. Otherwise, it doesn't really work that well. Now here's another problem. Everyone has a very different pain tolerance to these sort of things. Like whenever I tried the OWO shirt at CES, not this year but last year, they have people like move the slider up and down and they say, hey, does this hurt? Does this hurt too much? Like, what is your right level? And some people who are getting this test that I've talked to, since they usually, I guess you can solve for this by starting from a very low level and making your way up. But I know some people who have had an extremely low tolerance, and during their first test of like turning it on and like kind of boosting it up, their muscles locked up and they fell and hit their head and almost gashed their eyeball against the corner of a table because they could not move, because you know our muscles are stimulated by electricity, and everyone has different stuff going on there. And even when you're like locked in, completely good, everything works pretty well, and I'm talking about consumer use case, and I'll get to that in a moment, it all just feels pain. Like people are like, oh, what if it rains on you? You can have these electrodes that give you tiny little shocks, like in various amounts. It doesn't feel like it's raining on you when you wear these things. It feels like a bunch of needles are dropping on your skin. It doesn't feel like pleasant unless you're like really into that. Yeah, so like I don't really believe in that. For consumer technology, I don't believe in this sort of situation for haptics. And I tried the next level. I would say that's like past OWO suit, which is the Tesla suit, which is like it's like OWO suit on steroids. It's not only a shirt, but it's also your legs as well, and you're not really supposed to wear underwear under that as well. But anyway, that has way more zones. It had way better software, and also you can do full body tracking with it because they also put a bunch of IMUs, kind of similar to like what Slime VR does to create like a skeleton. And that was better. It was much more immersive because there was more zones, but it was still kind of just pain at varying levels. Now, that's good for research in like hospital and like retraining people how to move their muscles, because like, hey, if you can retrain people how to use their muscles by like that electrical feedback sort of thing, that's a valuable use case for this technology. But like putting something on that cannot be cleaned, you can't put it in the washer. The OWO suit smelled so freaking bad on the show floor, even though they were like trying to hand wipe each one between the demos.
That's such a big
It's just not a consumer.
Yeah, like
it is. Yeah. Most people don't want to do that. Like all those things, all these things, and you don't know. Hey, Windows 10 or whatever they're on, 11 or whatever. My Windows 11, every time there's a new update, something breaks. Right? Something just freaking breaks. I don't know. I can't deal with it. It'd be terrifying if, like, let's say you're wearing an OWO suit.
Yeah.
And Windows 11 decides, oh, I'm gonna turn off and like do an update right now. Well, sometimes, what if the software just decides, oh, let's just like shock people to hell because there's no, like,
because there's
so many things that can go wrong for consumers that I don't think it's a consumer technology. There's one more technology that uses this that recently came out. Now, I didn't try it, but I had a friend who tried it. It's the same technology, but they did it for gloves, and they said it was just excruciating. Like it was trying to give you haptics on each finger based on touching stuff, but they would shock your fingers. And your hands have so many like neurons in it, right? Because
it's like so much worse. Yeah.
Exactly. So when you like shock even a tiny amount to all the little parts on your fingers and hands, it's just, you're just dipping your hand into like a bunch of broken glass, basically. So it's like, I just don't think, unless you're like a masochist, like BDSM person, I don't see who wants these products. Like really, I've not met a person that has bought one to say. And while I'm not like a huge, I have a bHaptics suit, which is not electroshock. That's like very simple,
it's
bunch
like
of
motors,
like vibrating motors.
Yeah,
a bunch of vibrating motors. It's an array of them. That works way better, in my opinion. And I think it's way more consumer ready, even if it's not like as miniaturized as I think it could be and all that other stuff. I think that's still the best consumers, if they're really interested in like full body haptics, can get right now. Like genuinely. So Yeah.
I still think it's far off. Like the technology's cool, but like
I don't put on my bHaptics suit ever. Like I just don't. Like you know Phantom Sense, right? Like people
yeah,
who
the whole thing.
gain Phantom Sense,
Uh-huh.
right? Like I think. Oh, you know what a good example is like back in like the Atari days where
Okay.
people had like terrible sprites. Like
Uh-huh.
you would buy like a Jaws game, right? And the shark did not look like a shark. It looked like just a blue square. But like people back then who played those games, their imagination would fill in the blanks, and like they remember it much more vividly than if they look at it now with all like the current graphics and stuff. I think like Phantom Sense and like all that stuff that people feel when they kind of gain that in VR and stuff is like actually more immersive than just putting a heavy thing with a bunch of motors that vibrate based on the software. That's kind of how I feel
Yeah, I
right
think
now
so though,
about
in
it.
a way, because like if you can kind of like develop that sort of like phantom sense in a way it could be more immersive than strapping a bunch of crap to your body because the human brain's so advanced to where we could just like
Yeah.
train it that way. It's like, yeah,
Mm-hmm. But I do think haptics are still important for hands, like
yeah,
hands
yeah,
in VR. It's really, we were just talking about how there's so many nerves in our hands, right? Like touching the air and like and interacting with the air doesn't feel good as humans. Like our hands are literally trained to like get feedback responses. So like that's the one thing I'm really nervous about with all this like focus on the hand tracking, the camera based hand tracking is I think people are going to lose a really important element that we've kind of evolved to really take advantage of, and it's why every controller or even every interface, like even the mouse has a simple click. Like
yeah.
that adds a lot to our brain because we literally just trained ourselves to be to expect a response, and I don't think this is going to be enough for a while.
But with along the lines of like immersion and everything, it's such a big topic with that, with like
Hmm.
suits and then like gloves and then like I know like what is it? You could build VR gloves and have pretty good haptics for like $60. I know I was hearing about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like
Yeah, yeah. I could talk a little bit about that glove too, because you're talking about the Lucas VR Tech
yeah,
or
those.
Lucid gloves. Yeah, and actually, it's actually kind of amazing. So, unfortunately, there's no one that mass produces those gloves. Like, even though like they're very, they're very very DIY looking and stuff, and I don't think you can improve that much. Like, I was really shocked when I actually went to his house with Thrill to have them like build the glove and stuff and do that with him. And yeah, that was actually a really good glove demo. Do you want me to talk about gloves for a second? Because
Yeah,
actually,
let's talk
like,
about gloves. Yeah.
yeah. So like gloves, I've never been. People are gonna like watch this video and be like, "Wow, this guy's a downer." But like, I've never been like too enthusiastic about the idea of consumer gloves. Like I've tried so many different shows, and like you go all the way from like the simple gloves, like the ones that bHaptics have, where they don't do any tracking or anything. They just kind of put vibration motors and like rely on the camera tracking, which is not bad. Not it's very basic, but I still don't think it's something amazing. And then we have you go all the way up to a company called Haptics, which you put on this giant backpack. It's like all like fluid based, and like it's so heavy, and like it's a giant thing on your arm. It's got force feedback and all that stuff, but it's so bulky. Like I can't imagine something like that ever coming to consumers. Now Lucas VR Tech gloves, very simple DIY parts. It has force feedback as well. It uses like basically wire or strings and wires, and very simple. It was actually pretty good. Now, the problem with that gloves is they still weren't really they still had problems like the motors wouldn't like correctly sometimes like actually squeeze when you want them to squeeze or like pull when you want them to pull. But that's all software issues. I think if someone like really wanted to mass produce those kind of gloves, they probably could do it. It would still look pretty jank looking from the outside, but it was pretty good. Now, another glove I tried recently that I thought was surprisingly good was Diver X contact gloves, which is wild because a year ago, like December 2022, they sent me their first pair. They did a Kickstarter, which I freaking hate VR I hate Kickstarters, but I usually also hate VR Kickstarters even more. But they did a Kickstarter. They sent me a glove. I tried it. I basically told them I am not doing a video on this because I hate these gloves so much. Frankly, it didn't work well. The software was, yeah, I'm pretty straight up with everyone. I think that kind of why I don't get a lot of free stuff sent to me. But they were terrible. Software was bad. The gloves didn't like track your fingers. Recently, last December 2023, a year after, they sent me their V2 gloves, which had better components, better software, everything. And they also had this little controller. This little controller that magnetically attaches and like lays against your side. I think they call it like Magnetra or something. Those were the first gloves, even past like the Lucas VR Tech gloves, that like I was wearing them and using them. And I was like, okay, maybe consumer VR gloves actually has a shot, like at some point. Like it was acceptable. It wasn't perfect. Like I ran into a lot of issues with them where it's like you know, you wear gloves on your hands get sweaty. That doesn't really feel good for long hours or periods of time. I can't really type on my keyboard with them wearing those gloves very accurately because, you know, if you ever put on like kind of thick gloves and try to type on a keyboard, it's not really easy. But still, like it provided basic haptic feedback. It controlled all fingers independently. And that controller attachment that allowed you to do the input stuff that you might want to do with current software, it all worked seamlessly. I do think gloves have a shot for the consumer market
at replacing controllers
after those gloves, but
you think
someday, again, I think if I didn't have the gross sweat problem that I get from wearing those gloves, I probably would use them over index controllers. Like that's how nice they kind of were. Like they were pretty good, but they're also really expensive still. They're like, dude, like $500 or something, and they're still not perfect. So it's like getting close, but not there. They only do finger curl like the index controllers. They don't do splay yet. But yeah, way more optimistic about consumer VR gloves after that than I have ever been for the past 8 years of trying a bunch of VR gloves that were all gimmicky and terrible or bulky or awful.
Something that like would increase an extent of immersion, like without, if we can eventually get rid of the controllers and feel like we actually have hands in virtual reality or VR, that could be like really huge.
Yeah, I think while I did just say like, wow, these gloves did impress me and I can see a path. Whenever I try gloves, it actually makes me appreciate what Valve did with Knuckles even more, even though they like break all the time. And
they're delicate, and you could drop them from 3 feet and they'll break.
Yeah, and like, you know, they don't correctly always match up finger-wise, like, you know, they're hit or miss, but like still, the more you use these crappy gloves at events, you're like, okay, I'm so glad I'm back to my index controllers, like honestly, because yeah, I don't know, it's kind of wild how still far away it feels that we have a good input that feels comfortable to wear on your hands, that gives you a little bit of this. It's the one thing I like, even though this doesn't work well, I love the Quest Pro controllers. Like those are actually, if I were to choose any other controller not to use index controllers, the Quest Pro controllers are my favorite by far. But I always miss this, and I also miss it just like attached to my hand. And it's really surprising that neither of these have caught on really for that many controllers in the market. I don't know I don't know what people are doing.
Yeah, but like in the near future, I feel like if something with like standalone tracked controller, because these are actually, I'm using Pro controllers, and something like the index knuckle like finger thing, like if that was like combined in a way, like self-track plus that, I think, and improved, I think that would be huge. Yeah. It would be
so perfect. It would be so good. It would be so good. Now, one thing, I have a very hot take that I realize that no one else wants, but like I'm on the show, so I'm gonna like give my hot take. There's a patent for the index controllers, like the there were two versions basically that they were deciding which to release, and one version removed the thumbstick and had a big circular touchpad. I'm really obsessed with touchpads in VR. Like, I did not. Let me be clear. I did not like the Vive ones. Like, they had a lot of problems. To me, the touchpad was not the problem with those Vive ones. It was everything else that sucked about it. And now, obviously, I think thumbsticks are good for games, right? People love thumbsticks for games and moving around. But like, I really feel kind of talking about how this little bit adds like immersion and like kind of works well for VR. Just something as simple as curling your fingers, interacting with things in your spatial environment, AR VR space, with like a touchpad that has full sway and like a lot of give based on how they kind of software does it. I like it way more than thumbsticks. I always wish I can just take off my thumbstick and have a big touchpad there. But yeah, anyway.
So would you possibly say your ideal VR controller would be Quest Pro controllers that standalone, touchpad instead of thumbsticks with buttons and hand track would be your ideal, like...
100%. Yes. And basically index controller with big touchpad and, as you said, Quest Pro tracking per controller. That would be the perfect controller for me. 100%. Yeah. That's what I want. But no one's going to make that because,
I don't want to know how much those would be if they released.
They would probably cost, I think, you know what though, like Quest Pro controllers, people complain about the cost of Quest Pro controllers, and like, I don't know if you, have you had the thumbstick drift on your Quest Pro controllers at all?
I've had them for 6 months now and I don't have it yet. So I've heard people that get it in a week, but like,
Yeah, there definitely seems to be a lottery for that. Like, that's another reason thumbsticks suck. You can't. Dude,
like you get
Hall effect sensor. Like,
why are we using Hall effect? Like, where is this shit? Like,
God, it's so annoying. Yeah, if that didn't have that problem, like, people complain that like, hey, sometimes the Quest Pro controllers, like, I don't know, they don't turn on as fast or whatever, all that stuff. Like, all those are software issues that could be fixed as Meta cared about. If they fix the thumbstick problem, like, it's already like such a good controller, and like people are like, oh, it's $300, and like
the thumbstick problem, and probably like the startup time, and like literally if it just had hand tracking, it would be the perfect controller, pretty much. Like,
I love the controller. Like, I think people, I love doing it. Like, not being limited is so valuable, and I think like Quest 2 and Quest 3 have really like made people not understand why it's just valuable. And in fact, that's going back to the gloves. That's another reason why I like those gloves is with the bHaptics gloves, you're relying on the camera's FOV, right, of the Quest 2 or Quest 3 to track your hands because they're doing no tracking itself. The contact glove has, you put a Tundra tracker on it. So you can still do stuff like this, and like, you can do all the stuff you expect, and while still having finger tracking as well. And like, it's not the full tracking range is not really a what I would put it. I wouldn't say it's like a huge deal breaker for people. I understand that, but like, it still is one of those tiny things where it's like if it ever drifts away and you don't expect it to drift away, it still is just takes you out of it a little bit, and like it's better not to have those little things that take you out. Yeah, it's just like it's nice because VR and AR is just a ton of little things, that make the experience good, and like having something like that just go float away because it's like the cameras can't see it. It's so frustrating. So yeah, I really appreciate the Quest Pro controllers and what they did. I'm excited for the Ultimate trackers. They're actually supposed to be wait, what's today? Is today? Oh, I think the Ultimate trackers from HTC, their PSVR beta, I think, is supposed to release today, and I've been holding on to them for a while to see how those work, because they're basically Quest Pro, how they like do their tracking. They have
slapping a Quest Pro controller onto a tracker. That's what it is.
Yeah, exactly. It's what it is, and like it makes sense, and like it's totally a path forward I can see to like maybe replacing Lighthouse if HTC software is doing it right. I don't know. HTC software can be pretty
iffy sometimes. Hopefully the software is good. Please, software be good. Please be good. Please be good.
Yeah. If I was basing their software off of my XR Elite experience I had in December, then I probably should not have any Copium. But I'm still coping a bit. I guess I'll find out today if they actually release it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely let me know about that. I'm really interested about those, like with the whole like PC like compatibility and
If I can track my legs while they're under my desk, they're a win for me. If they can't do that, then I'm gonna be pissed off. But yeah.
I feel like they would though, because with camera track things, with like especially with the pro controllers, like I've tested like on the lowest amount of light you could go in a room for them to still track, because it's all about
Mm,
light, right? Like if there's still light under
yes.
the desk, right? It should be fine.
That's my so here's our problem. I think is like computer vision is really hard. Like I think Meta they there's dude, I can say a lot of things about Meta that I don't like about them, but like they have nailed computer camera based computer vision like better than anyone by such a far degree. So I'm really scared because I don't think HTC has come close to how good Meta's computer vision is. So that's why I'm still kind of nervous about these things. But yeah, we'll see.
Hopefully though, we're all slowly coping, but we're like hopefully it's good, please,
Yeah,
please. Also,
please God.
speaking of the one pro controller problem, um, the controller just like does you see what it's not tracking anymore. It did the thing.
It just did the thing.
It did the
Oh,
thing.
it knew we were talking about it.
Yeah, no, I overheard.
They need, yeah, dude. I don't know. And the problem with Meta is like not even just the Quest Pro controllers with the HMD that it released with. They just dumped that thing out in the market and like it didn't do well. So they're like, okay, we don't give a crap about it anymore. We're not pushing any notable updates to the controllers or really the Quest Pro. It's really frustrating. They honestly pulled a Valve. They pulled a Valve for the Quest
They put a
Pro, which is
valve on the
like
pro.
yeah, like they're the Quest Pro controllers I think could be improved massively if they
Oh my
let
god, wait, I
people
just
work
thought of
on it and
something.
like
You know Toy
yeah,
Story?
yeah.
They literally pulled an and they're like, hey, we're releasing you, but now we're done with you. We don't care about you. We're not gonna play with you anymore. We're not gonna update you.
I don't want to play with you anymore. Yeah, yeah. Which is why I don't, dude. If you really want to get into the grid of it, like, I don't, I'm not a big believer in Meta's. Okay, I have to word this very carefully. so, so Meta's big strategy is subsidies, getting as much people in VR, and worrying about profits later. I don't really know how they get to that profitability with what they're doing. Like, so like Vision Pro, we give it a ton of crap. Like everyone in the current VR industry give it a ton of crap for its costs, all the weirdness and problems and the bull crap it has. But the crazy thing about Quest or Vision Pro is it's reported that for their pre-orders they sold 200,000 units, which
What
doesn't sound like a lot, right? 200,000
Wait,
units is
200?
not a big deal for 200,000
Okay.
Vision Pros. Okay, it's higher than Apple's expectations, from what I understand, but Apple is a huge company that sells billions of products. Right?
True.
Meta is a big company that sold what, like 20 million Quests, which is way higher than 200,000 Vision Pros,
Yeah.
obviously.
20, what is it, like
But the
27
thing
million
is,
twos or something? Like something insane.
it's like 20 to 25 million Quest headsets sold, which is a lot. Now the problem is the 20 or whatever it is, 200,000 Vision Pros, they already made the same amount of revenue that Meta has made on their hardware and like software in the past year, just with that pre-order, because they priced it obviously so high. So you take the price of Vision Pro, you times it by 200,000, same revenue. However, Apple is taking a profit on every headset sold already. First gen headset, no subsidies, taking a profit on everything. Meta's still not. Like they're still not. And like I don't know how they get there, because like Quest Pro I really feel It launched at $1,500, if you remember, right?
It was insane.
It was pretty
I think
expensive.
even Throw even said like after like everything, it was like 1,700. Like that's insane.
Yeah, it was expensive, but you know what? That was their first product that they tried to make a profit on the hardware for. It didn't work out for them. It just didn't, right? Like, in fact, I think Vision Pros, their pre-order period, they already sold more than like Quest Pro did in its first year. So it's kind of interesting when you like see, okay, how does Meta get out of that hole where it's like they tried to make profit on hardware with Quest Pro, didn't do well. They dumped it because the vision for that headset just didn't really work well. And it didn't do what it was advertised, all that stuff. So they go back to their strategy with Quest 3. Quest 3's probably sold like at a loss or like near at a loss, and they're hoping that developers will come to their platform and like eventually there will be some killer app other than Beat Saber that will make all of it worthwhile. They're doing the Apple model. They're trying to create a vertically integrated ecosystem.
Yeah, like their own ecosystem-ish.
Yeah, but yeah. I don't see them being able to compete with Apple because
I don't think
Meta
so,
is
the
trying...
Apple ecosystem's so advanced where it's like it literally is though, to where you can like integrate it with like your computer and just like everything, and then how it's like with the Vision Pro and
Yeah, it's like, you know, I know people are like, well, you know, Quest does gaming. It's like a really successful games console. But Meta really doesn't want that. That's not what they're interested in at all for those products. Like, they want to escape the gaming and like actually become like a multi-purpose device, like the Vision Pro. Like, the Vision Pro is everything Meta wants to do. I know that from talking to people. I know that from like obviously leaked publications from internally in the company. I don't believe Meta's gonna get there like anytime soon. I don't think they're gonna get profitability ever because like there's rumors already of like a Quest Pro 2, right? And they're gonna take a lot of the stuff that Apple's doing, try to make it cheaper and all that stuff. But everything I've seen about how they do their operating system, their software, and their like all that stuff, what they're doing with just selling a product and then your controllers like just don't work because they don't want to software update them and fix
it's like they don't
to their
work,
most loyal customers.
or like they overheat. It's like no, the Pro controllers are amazing. They're great. They self-track. Literally, as like an example of what we were talking about, it just don't track it. It's like, hey,
they're amazing technology.
Yeah, but then it's like I'm going to decide not to track no more. Yeah. And it's like, what the...
They're amazing technology that can be improved with software. It can be improved with the right team if they devote resources to it.
They actually care.
But they're always, but they always seem like a company that just doesn't really get it or really can do what they're trying to do on like a full scale. So I really don't know how they make profitability, which you know, I know their point is they don't have to make profitability anytime soon. They're a huge company. They're a multi-billion-dollar company. They've kept this industry afloat by far. Like there wouldn't be as much money in XR and AR VR without them. But at some point, it just doesn't really make sense how a company. They've had a 10-year lead in VR. Like, no real competitors. Their closest competitor was maybe Valve, but even Valve, like,
wasn't
did a lot of the same stuff we're talking about with Quest Pro. Right, yeah. Like you know, they launched the Index. They had some... Index had freaking global shutter cameras where you could do some of the mixed reality stuff back in 2019 before any mainstream headset had anything like that. But... you know, Valve being Valve, they get bored with something, they stop updating it and stuff and doing very small and incremental stuff for like maintenance mode. I don't think XR is something where you can do that. Like, I don't think you can do that. And Meta hasn't been doing that, but they also are a big company that has shareholders and like they have to figure out one day how to get profitable. And everything I've seen from them, I just don't see how they do it. So yeah, weird tangent there, but it's something that bothers me a lot because they're just a company. Like I don't like when companies create these hype waves in our industry because I think they're actually more destructive. Because once you have a hype wave,
they really are though.
You have a crash.
Because then it gets to the mainstream media, and the mainstream media is like the whole thing again that comes up every time. It's like, oh, VR's dead, and the whole thing. And I was like, what the?
Like they're the ones that push the metaverse thing. Like I don't think anyone would have talked about the metaverse in like a weird public thing, and they thought it was a really good idea and everything, but they just confused tons of people that are not in this thing already. They confused the everyday person, and then they started pushing this screenshots of what their metaverse looks like, and made people afraid of it and like grossed out by it and all this stuff.
Better
and, like,
Horizons was like when it reached the mainstream media was kind of a joke. Like it was.
yeah, the picture of Zuckerberg with the Eiffel Tower or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh my god.
a multi-billion-dollar company saying the metaverse is the future, then they post something like that, it causes a huge crash in the industry. So investors will just never invest in XR again. And that's a huge problem today. It's like you kind of, even if you have a good idea in XR, you kind of just can't get investors, like if you're in the West. And so no one will bother to create the cool things that we need to kind of push this technology, unless you're a multi-billion-dollar company like Apple, who has way more money, knows how to make a profit on stuff, has a loyal, has a rabid,
Loyal
crazy fan base.
Actually, like they're like, oh, like they'll pay for it anyway. It's probably like, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like I don't know. I don't know how Meta does. I don't know how Meta gets out of it. I know it doesn't matter too much, but like it bothers me because I don't like seeing these huge hype waves be created. A bunch of money comes into Meta, and then it doesn't work out because the hype wave was just not true to reality, and then things crash, and like we're back to square one where people realize, oh, maybe VR still needs 10 to 20 years to mature before we get to that point. And yeah, it's just painful every time.
It's the whole thing. But honestly, to get more stable connection, I was on a link cable this whole time. We all know how bad these batteries in VR headsets are. I got the fucking warning. I got the fucking warning for that. How long have we been talking? I got a fucking warning of the battery dying.
Bruh.
That's another problem. How do we put technologies in our headsets that are lower power? Like, there's so many problems.
Come on.
Still.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, the battery for Vision Pro is on the waist, and like.
Yeah.
Dude, that thing
They could have
lasts
totally
2 hours as
Let's
well.
be honest. They could have totally. Meta could have totally just removed the batteries from the headset. We could have another battery that's like totally high capacity. Like it could have been so much better. Like.
Yeah. It's really we could totally talk about that another time because there's a lot of funny stories related to that. I've heard. So yeah, it's funny.
Well,
funny.
Very funny. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I had a blast. Honestly, we'll definitely have to do a second video because I do want to talk about like the Vision Pro. Like once you get the trial Vision Pro, like that's a whole thing. And I honestly wanted to talk for so much longer, but this headset's dog shit and the battery's dying.
Oh god.
Because I don't think we even got anywhere near how much we wanted to talk about stuff.
Oh man, I can rant about this crap for hours. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'll see you all in the virtual world in the next Kaiyo Cast episode. Bye.